nests like literally in little divots in people's yards.
Really? Huh?
So it happens a lot that like people's dogs or landscapers will accidentally uncover them. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's huge. They get big.
Pictures? Of course, yeah. Go to town. Go to town. Just this probably 3 or 4 day old baby bunny.
What's like the area that you're drawing?
Everywhere, all over the state. I mean, I work with a lot of animal control officers close by in the surrounding towns, but people have driven hours to come here. As long as they're in the state of Massachusetts, they can bring the animals. We can't take anything from out of state because Mass Wildlife wants to keep, obviously, viruses and any potential diseases or anything like that. But then we have, these guys are probably same type of animal, like 2 weeks old, but more cottontails. They're only
docile, huh?
They're chill right now. I mean, relatively, you can see how this one's a little bit more active right now. But they're very young, only maybe 2 weeks old. So baby squirrels. I'll throw on some gloves.
Yeah.
So we do small mammals. Some wildlife rehabilitators focus on birds. Some focus on reptiles and amphibians. We do small mammals here. So like this guy. So this one had a really bad parasite infestation and was an orphan. So we do some lab tests here. Like we test like fecal samples, and we noticed they had a really high load of coccidiosis, which is a protozoa, and it's also important because that can be spread to people's pets as well. People can also get it. It's called a zoonotic disease that people can get too. So when we get these animals that are really sick and we treat them, it doesn't only just help our wildlife, but it helps domestic pets and people as well. Now this guy's only about maybe 8 weeks old, so still pretty young, but we get them all ages. I know. Like, wait, feed me, please.
Now, let me ask you this question: how did you get? Like, why did you get that?
So we're on.
On this, like a squirrel, like that. Is it because of that possible?
Yeah. So he was orphaned, so he was like literally on someone's shoe.
Okay.
And they were like, "What's?" So they'll call us and they're like, "What do we do from here?"
You
know.
I got you.
So we'll ask them like, "Well, is mom around? Like, how do they look?" They'll send us pictures. Sometimes we can tell they're dehydrated or really thin. So we'll usually work with them. Sometimes it's just like one fell from a tree and needs to be reunited. We'll kind of talk them through that, But when it's obvious, this one looked really neurological. He looks a lot better now. When he first came in, you could tell something was definitely like wrong with him. And also it's really important with the mammals that, especially the rabies vector species. We keep an eye on them too, and do testing and stuff for labs in the event that like something has rabies. Usually not.
Right. Rosanna Ellie and I were just talking about it. Like I think it was on BZ yesterday or something, about a lot of sort of Boston suburban towns or like Brookline and weird areas all around Boston are having a lot of rabies situations right now with raccoons.
With raccoons, it makes sense. I mean, I've picked some up from Chelmsford that had rabies too. Like it's difficult because rabies and distemper really look very similar. They all look like the animal's drunk. Like some people think they won't want water or they're frothing at the mouth. I rarely ever see that, but they walk around like they've just had one drink too many, And that's important because the quicker we take them out,
they become a little aggressive, don't they?
They can. But there's also friendly rabies. So everyone knows about the aggressive rabies.
Yeah, I know about the
But what messes people up is the friendly rabies. They act like they were someone's pet. They lose all fear of people and they're super sweet. And that's when people can get in trouble.
If you see animals like those raccoons.
Right. Yeah. But by the time ours are released,
like
they don't
would probably want to go pick one of them up. I almost did.
That's so cute. That's people get in trouble with the baby raccoons a lot. We have some here, like these two. They're real little. I know.
They're so cool. I think they're the coolest animals.
They're really cool. Intelligent.
Those claws are really sharp too.
They are. So that's the issue too,
awesome,
right?
right?
Because like, if an animal has rabies, they spread it through scratching or biting. And if these claws are meant to like grab trees, so it's very easy for them to accidentally scratch it.
She found? Oh yeah.
This was sent from another rehabber in Haverhill. I don't remember where she actually got them, but she didn't have a time to do they need like constant bottle feedings every few hours, so you have to have somebody available to do it.
Bunch of limbs.
I know, right? They're very vocal, especially when they're
I
hungry.
think they're so cool.
They're super cute. Very, very smart. Very, very smart. So all of ours are vaccinated and
course.
dewormed. They're vaccinated against rabies, distemper, parvo, and they're dewormed. But they all go through a quarantine process too, to keep our staff safe. But everybody on our staff, there's 7 on our staff, we're all vaccinated against rabies as well.
Out those hands.
I know.
They're like
Crazy,
people
right?
hands,
Yeah.
like the way that they feel stuff. So when they put things in water, they have like it increases their sensitivity like times 9. So people would think that they're super clean because they wash everything,
Totally.
but they're actually putting things in water so they can get a sensory overload. Like they're looking at it basically whenever they're putting them in water. But they're crazy.
It's really interesting you bring up that point about their hands, because
Yeah.
now you think about how every time you take the trash out, like we do for Tuesday nights, like how good they are at getting into trash. Like look at
They're
those
so
hands.
smart, yes. Right.
They're like
and
they have a lot of
figure
like
stuff
right?
out. People say
unbelievable.
like, oh, it'd be cool to have them as pets. I'm like, no, way
No, they're
too
pretty
smart.
crafty.
They would get into
They're
every
crafty.
drawer you have.
We
They
have cement
figure out
blocks. They
them.
lift them off. How do they do that?
Our raccoon
Now look at their
enclosures,
hands.
Yeah, they figure it out.
It's unbelievable. And then they do they work in like they work together on some of that stuff, right? I know. It's
I
unbelievable.
had like at one point I had this enclosure in the back that has like this heavy rock covering a
Yeah.
hole because we used the hole to like clean it. And I found that like I had 11 in that cage and multiple ones got together to move the rock.
Wow.
I
that's-
figured we
that's
were
crazy.
safe because one couldn't move it. We've got them all back in. They were young. By the time it's dinner time, they're like, "Wait, can we come back, please?" You know.
Sure.
But at that point, I was like, "Crap, we have to like really, really think about it." So these are some of our younger squirrels. They're still formula fed every 3 to 4 hours when they come in.
Wow.
So it's pretty. It's
Now, when would
constant.
graduation time be for this
For the
young
raccoons,
raccoon?
4 to 5 months,
Okay.
and we have some in the very back enclosure that are ready for release now. We're just
Gotcha.
looking for a good spot for them. But these guys are only about 4 or 5 weeks old, so they'll end up being overwinters. Because
Wow.
in New England, by the time these guys are 5 months old, it's not fair to release them because they got no chance. They haven't had a chance to get used to stuff and find a good food source. So these guys will stay here over winter, but the rest of them will be ready to go before winter time.
So every 3 to 4 hours, is somebody doing that at night?
There's someone at night. Luckily, most of these guys don't have to be fed overnight. Sometimes when we get them really little, when they're like newborn and furless, it's overnight. Luckily, nobody here right now. But yeah, they're in the beginning of baby season. This is Stanley. I'll bring him out. He's a groundhog.
I see him right there.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
We're
so
looking
cool.
for permanent
Those guys are
replacement.
cool.
They're super cool. They eat a ton.
Groundhog and hedgehogs too are kind of cool.
Yeah, we don't have hedgehogs
Wow.
here locally, but groundhogs.
Oh, these guys are so cool.
Stanley we're looking for permanent placement for because he's epileptic. We just took him to Littleton Animal Hospital
Wow.
to get looked at. He's on anti-seizure medication, so we're seeing how he responds to that and making sure we can keep the seizures under control. He's been here since he was tiny. And he seemed like he was developing okay, but the other groundhogs were less friendly instinctually. And he always was just very, oh, he loves corn.
And woodchucks look really similar, right?
Same animal.
Yeah,
That
they look very similar.
I figured that out. It's
They're bigger though,
woodchuck-
right? They're
no,
bigger? They're
same
smaller?
exact animal.
Really?
Woodchuck,
I
groundhog,
thought they were a little
whistle
different.
pig. No, I thought when I first became a rehab,
Yeah.
I literally thought they were 2 different
It's
animals.
unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
They're this. I think they're the coolest, and they get to about like this big, right?
They're pretty. Yeah, they'll get like 15 pounds or so. He's like a teenager. But he has to have meds 3 times a day, so he will never be releasable.
It's okay, like
But
most
they're-
teenagers.
They're, but they're
It's a joke.
fascinating. They're fascinating. They're true hibernators. Like what their bodies go through in the winter is incredible. Like being able to actually slow their heartbeats just a couple times a minute. To like breathe just a couple times a minute. Their temperature goes to like 40 degrees. Like it's insane that they can survive that. But they have to be really, really healthy before they can go into hibernation. And actually 7 out of 10 die their first year because if they don't do hibernation properly, they won't make it. They have to go below the frost line. They have to make sure they have enough fat on them to survive the winter. So all those things have to be perfect for them to make it.
You could care less we were here, right? He just wants to eat
pretty,
that. Yeah.
He's different from most of them.
It's
Like the
pretty
other
crazy.
ones I have
Look at
care.
that.
He's neurological. He's special. He's my special little
He's
friend.
cool.
Stanley. He's pretty. He stole all of our hearts. He's a stunt tired.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. Let me digest this.
They're so expensive to feed these guys because they want is veggies. It's
I was
funny
gonna say,
'cause-
this is a nice spread.
right. You see what the beavers
bad
get
at all.
too. Like
No
I look
carb
at the
diet,
fridge
It's
right?
better than
here.
I do.
A little bit of grains, little grains in there.
Yeah, nice. How are you funded?
By people, usually by
donations?
Facebook. It's
Foundation?
all private donations.
Wow.
Private donations?
Everything you see here was funded by the public. Everything.
Wow.
I started this. I was a
Unbelievable.
general contractor. I was only going to do this like on the side, like in between working, and everyone. What happened was one of my plumbers had a raccoon that they had removed from their warehouse, and she had babies, and he didn't know, and he couldn't find a rehabber for them because everybody was full. And I used to do it in Georgia when I was younger, and I was like, I'll get licensed to take care of these two legally, and maybe I'll do a few every year. And then once people started finding out that I was doing it, my phone became like overrun, like it was crazy. So I was like, all right, I'll start a little Facebook page, see if I can get a few donations, see what I can do, and it blew up. The community embraced it. I think anyone that's ever found a wild animal in need and couldn't reach anyone or couldn't find a place for it, it matters to them so much. Like everyone at some point has come across wildlife in need. And so there's so much support. So I've just kind of gone off with what people were able to do for us. So this entire room, all these incubators you see, like everything, these cages, all the lavish meals these animals eat is all from public donations.
Wow, you must have must have a pretty good campaign on that.
I just do
because
Facebook
You
posts.
gotta do
like,
this quite a
literally,
bit.
Yeah,
I mean, you
like
have to eat.
all I do, I make sure that people know what we're doing. They know all the animal stories. They know what Stanley's been through. They know when we have new intakes. I just did posts about baby bunnies this morning. So I constantly show them what we're doing with the funds. And anytime I'm
Great.
like, we'll post an Amazon list or anything like that. The veterinarians work for us for free.
Yeah.
They just donate their time.
That's
You say
fantastic.
there's 7 staff?
7 of us, yeah. I
Seven?
have an office manager that answers the
All volunteer or
phones.
some of them?
No,
Oh,
some of them
yeah,
are volunteers, some of them are paid.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
the
of course.
full-time job, like Tiny's a single mom, she's here 40 plus hours a week. 40 would be a low week for her. She volunteers a lot of her time. She'll take the animals home and work at night, but like absolutely
God.
she's paid for her time.
What's her name, did you say?
Tiny. Tiny.
Tiny?
She's amazing.
Hi,
She keeps
Tiny.
us
Thank
nice
you.
running. She's an incredible,
Thank you,
incredible
Tiny.
human being.
We'll try to let you go home early today.
How did you do?
Okay,
how'd
so you
how'd
take the
figure out how to
animals
like start the nonprofit and do all that?
It kind of, I ended up, there were people that I knew that knew more about than I did, because it's all paperwork, and I'm good at triage, and I'm good at like helping them when they're in really rough shape, but the paperwork aspect of it was way more than I anticipated. And filing for 501c, holy crap, like I had no idea. So yeah, I had a lot of good people that offered to help, so we got that approved, but that was not by any means on me. If I didn't have people helping me, like I have Marjorie is like answers all the emails and responds, but she's the ones who like responded to your email. Like, Jane, they want to come. Come on, answer. You know. And then I have a lady who answers the phones because we get 70 to 100 calls a day. We only house 60 animals at a time, but sometimes people, they just need advice. Sometimes like my dog got into a bunny nest. What do I do? Does it mean mom's not going to come back? You know, my kid touched.
So
the
Jane, let me
baby.
ask you this question.
Sure.
So if you get those like 70 calls or something around that line, is it regional or is it just Chelmsford?
It's regional.
How regional?
Oh, it's regional.
How
It's
far
it's the entire state.
Oh, okay.
It's the entire state, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I didn't know
I'd
if
say most of them are within an hour's drive from here, but
Wow.
sometimes,
Where's your farthest? What would you say your farthest?
as far as someone be willing to drive.
Okay,
You
gotcha.
know, I work with other rehabbers too, like Dawn Collins is in the Berkshires, which was like
Wow.
a 2-hour drive.
Sure.
But she had an orphan fox kit that was the same age as 2 kits that I had, so we drove out there to go get them. So,
Wow.
and it's nice, there's 200 wildlife rehabilitators in the state of Massachusetts. We've been very fortunate that our Facebook page took fire and we've had so much support, but there's a good community of rehabbers that'll work together, you know. we run into issues when you have like an orphaned beaver or an orphaned otter where there's not a whole bunch of them. If you get an orphaned squirrel or orphaned groundhog, you can always find a buddy for them. But the orphaned otters or orphaned beavers is a lot less likely to find. And when you raise one by itself, it's very hard to release it because it bonds with people and not other animals. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So we actually had a beaver transferred from Rhode Island to be with our beaver, but she was 5 months old at the time and she wanted nothing to do with it.
If you have an animal that has some sort of specific idiosyncrasies or needs someone who sort of understands the behavior of that animal a little
Yeah.
bit more, like, do you bring that vet in? Is that how you, is that relationship you do if like you have some sort of beaver from somewhere?
Diana,
How
let's
do you
get
do
a
that?
picture, come on. We want a picture with you first before you sneak out.
Come on, Shaggy. You gotta take off the mask, she's a beautiful thing. Come on.
Can I finish asking the question?
Yeah, go for it.